not alone.
Hi, everybody. We have here the amazing Ray Fisher, the heart of the movie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Liz. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again. I
It's
actually
so
don't
good.
recognize you without any of the cosplay stuff on. No, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. Obviously, for the release of the film, and for everything you've done, over the years that people have been pushing to get this out there. I know it's made a lot of difference, and I hope you feel that.
Oh, I honestly, it's so much joy to see what this community has accomplished, and you being one of the main voices that kept that fire going, get the fans excited. Because I know, I always have in mind that shirt that you just said, "I love Zack Snyder," and I was like, it's so cool, the love and respect that you have for that man, and we just love you so much.
It's easy to do, and it comes from an absolute genuine place. It's not hard for me to go out and show my appreciation and support for the folks who obviously support the art, who support these characters, and who support artistic integrity like through and through. So that's never a thing for me to represent that, and as enthusiastically as I've been known to represent those things.
No, listen, amen to that. I agree. How are you feeling? Because it has been a week.
Yeah.
Of chaos.
My eyes are still burning from watching the cut, right? It's like I've had it on probably nonstop on one screen or another. Like I've got it running over there right now. And once we get done this, I'll probably unmute it and keep watching. So this has been a dream. It really has been. And, aside from the public and the critical reception of it, like for me as a fan of this, like the 8-year-old in me, the 12-year-old, the 14-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 19-year-old, the 33-year-old who loves this stuff, like it's something that I can genuinely say, like, this is like the proudest moment of my life as far as like work and comic books and all that stuff goes. So I'm feeling
definitely
a lot of emotions, and
I bet
sort through it all, in the next week or month. It may take some time, like it may take a year for me to go, oh yeah, like, and then this happened and that happened and this meant this to me in that moment, and I'm still just unpacking it all. So but the overall sense is is joy and relief, validation, and just pride, pride.
Of course, I totally get that. I mean, I am emotional. I bet you're like 1,000 times more. And honestly, I'm so glad we're doing this. Thank you so much. I know the fandom means so much to me. You always go to conventions. We met at C2E2.
We did, yeah.
It was the first time we met, and I'm gonna bring in someone that is a really good friend, an incredible professional, and also that admires you tremendously, and that is Jason Laboy. So, hi,
Jason.
Oh, everyone, Ray, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you feeling? I appreciate you being all decked out in the ZSJL of it all, man.
Absolutely, man. Since the first day I met you back at Ace,
yeah,
and I was pushing for this. And when it happened, thank you for the early fan screening. That was just a surprise,
Hey, my pleasure, man. It's my thing is along the way you end up meeting really cool people who you're glad to know, and I'm glad to know you. I'm glad to know Liz. I'm glad that I've been able to meet so many passionate and dedicated folks who are also just genuinely nice people along the way, because it can go a couple different ways depending on
absolutely.
who you're dealing with respect to these kinds of films and comic books and all that. But I'm glad there's a network of positive people that are, really sticking together and creating this sort of sense of community. So I'm proud to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Look at us. Look at us. This is us at C2E2.
That's not me. That was me.
That used to be you.
You've been doing your superhero training, Jason. I'm
Absolutely.
proud of you, man.
Thank you.
I've seen some of your progress on social media, man. It's really impressive.
Yeah, 110 pounds difference. I remember this shot. This right here is when you walked on the stage on Ace, and I got goosebumps when you were just good times.
Look at that.
I don't get to be on stage much, especially with Corona and all that. So like, these sorts of moments that you're seeing right there, like being on stage, live audience, like in the moment, thousands of people, right? Because there were quite a few people at that convention.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like a whole lot.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
we have
zone.
here also what you do. I mean, this right here truly touched me. What this Josh Rossi, he did a campaign with the skits, and Jason was able to take these pictures of
Yeah.
you with Caden, who is a kid that was being bullied. And look at him. I mean, look how cute he is, like little Cyborg. And, you know, that's something always that we see in you, the love and support for the fans, for the kids. And, you know, it's admirable.
Whichever one with them. Yeah.
Whichever one
Yeah.
works. That's awesome, Ray.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, that was a really special time, and I know a lot of the kids that were a part of the Justice League Kids session that you saw there. They got to meet, you know, Gaul and Ezra and Henry, and you know, a lot of their counterparts. And that's, to be honest, that's probably the greatest fringe benefit, is being able to interact with people, and you know, to be able to see like the way that the work has affected them. You know, because as an actor, as somebody who's doing it, you're like, okay, you know, this sometimes may just feel like your job, but it means a lot more to people than I think we are even aware of, you know?
Yeah.
And I know if I were a kid watching something like Zack Snyder's Justice League, right? Because I grew up on Blade, right? That was my jam. If I was a kid watching that, especially a black kid watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'd feel an immense sense of, you know, being seen, especially because of, you know, the kind of story that, the kind of emotional story that Victor has with his father. That's very personal to me and something that I recognize within my own life. So I know, I can only imagine what I would have felt as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever. And mind you, I'm not suggesting 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, because it's a rated R film. But I was watching rated R films when I was that age. And,
Me too.
Yeah. So, you know, parental discretion is advised. But I know for me, watching something like that, I would have seen myself in it, and, you know, maybe not even knowing I should have been proud, but like feeling something that I couldn't have defined, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so sorry, I ramble.
No, please.
Don't let me take up all your time.
That is you're here for us. Like, that's the whole point of this interview, is to get to know you more and just get a sense of how you're feeling this moment. Like, did you always knew that Cyborg played such a crucial part in Zack Snyder's vision? And I'm sure, I mean, your mother, that scene when she tells you, I can't wait to see what you become, and then the car crash happens, and then look, I get good. Oh my gosh, it's so important.
Yeah.
You know, the whole development of your character you're the heart of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Well,
he truly is, yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I'm in shooting it, you know, I'm just sort of tunnel visioned in on what I'm doing, right? Like, until Zach had said, like, Cyborg is the heart of the story, when he had said that, I guess back in 2016 or 17, like, I didn't really think of it in that way. I was just like kind of heads down, you know, doing what I needed to do for the character. I knew what scenes existed, but I also knew there was a lot of great content for the other characters involved as well, you know, and as much as we get to see a Cyborg, like, I think we also get so much more of an exploration of who each of these characters is, or each of these characters are, in a way that I think is kind of mirrored and tied into Cyborg's story, so it helps to magnify and amplify the journey of others with respect to that. And shout out to Chris Terrio, you know, shout out to Zach, shout out to the editors, shout out to the editors and the folks that pulled this all together, because ultimately, you know, in the hands of less capable people, you know, this would not have had as much of an impact as it has had. And, you know, just even down to that line, I can't wait to see what you can be tomorrow. And then ultimately what he ends up being that next day, or the process of being, I mean, the foreshadowing, everything. It's just so
it's mind blowing.
It's, we could literally, maybe one day we'll have like a watch party or something like that, and we'll just talk about it, you know, from top to tail. It'd probably take about 12 hours for us to
yeah, I was gonna say you have to do it chapter by chapter, part by part, because no way. This is a movie that I have literally pages of notes. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, to sit down and actually analyze. This is a masterpiece, like many call it.
Yeah, it truly is. And I remember when I first seen it, when it came to Ray's parts, I got very emotional because with our dealings in the past and what we've spoken about, I'm like, finally, the world's able to see what he did. And I was like, wow, it just felt good seeing that play out because I'm like, I know how much it meant to you from our talks. And then the character itself spoke to me in so many ways with some of the things that I've dealt with in my life growing up. There's a lot of scenes that just took place that I was just like, wow, an emotional wreck, you know, like, oh my God, I grew up through that. And to see that portrayed in a film, a superhero film like this was just a beautiful thing overall, because again, there's many people like me who grow up in those circumstances and now they see someone that they can relate to and then they get hope from that as well.
Yeah, sorry. No, it's just that tweet that you posted, Jason, that your mom is like, hey, this was us, the single mother. That made me so sad, like emotional.
I saw it, and then from there I told her, I said, Mom, come look at this movie with me. She's like, how long is it? I was like, 4 hours. She's like, oh no, oh my God. I'm like, trust me, see this. And when it came to that part, and I'm staying there, I'm looking at her from the corner of my eyes, and I just see her getting emotional because we went through that growing up. You know, when my parents separated, my father was still there, but his responsibility isn't for my mother, it's for me. So, you know, he took care of me, but he, you know, in a way he can't really take care of her. And there was many times, you know, we lived on public assistance. We didn't know when the next meal may come or bills, you know, when they were going to get paid. So then seeing that, and then she was just bawling. And she was like, wow, he did that so well. And then I showed her the picture of you and I together. And she just was like, oh my God, you know, I'm like, I've met him a few times, you know. She's like, and she gave me a big hug, and she was like, she's like, let him know he's a beautiful man, and he did excellent there. I said, I will definitely let him know. And then she said, hey, if there's a convention, will he be there? Will you take me? I said, absolutely. I'll take you to meet him.
Listen, I tell you what, please tell her I said thank you, you know, and,
will do.
You know, I will defer a lot of that praise in the storytelling, you know, obviously to Chris and to Zach, because I couldn't be a part of the scene if it weren't written and if it weren't there visually for those guys. Like, it's pretty impactful, and I didn't realize how impactful it would be. Like, I had my idea of what was transpiring in the film in my mind, right? But seeing it for the first time and having to pause the screen and walk away because I'm like, whew, okay, this is a lot. This is a lot. And in that 10-minute Cyborg learning his powers, like, it's 10 minutes, and you learn everything you need to know about this person to get a great sense of who they are, where they've come from, the struggles that they've endured, and the audience, you're rooting for them. You're rooting for Cyborg at the end of that 10 minutes. That's masterful storytelling. That's masterful storytelling, and it's great use of time. It's great use. I mean, the music. I mean, Fabian Wagner in his cinematography, like all of that stuff brought it together in such a crazy, but I think, you know, relevant and impactful way. And I myself, like, you know, I come from a single mother household, right? My mother and my grandmother raised us. You know, I know what it's like going to school and getting reduced lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back when it was like, hey.
Yeah.
You know, I know what
remember waiting on the cheese line with my mother back in the day. In the hood.
Know,
I know it well. I know
what it's like. You know, I know what it's like when my mom, you know, we were in a situation, she's an RN, right? And even though we didn't have a lot, we never really felt it. You know what I mean? Because I think the love ended up making up for some of the things we may have lacked. That, and, you know, you get a certain age and your mom's like, go get a job, right? So it's you know, you just find ways. But, you know, shout out to everybody, anybody's parents out there just trying to make it happen. Like, this is an important story for a lot of reasons. And I'm glad they made it so relevant and so grounded, because without that, you just, you know, this seems like an unrelatable, it would seem like an unrelatable situation, you know? So, anywho, yeah.
No, it's, your parents have, I can see that it's a big, obviously, support in your life. You've been a professional actor for over 15 years. And, you know, this is a lot of hard work to get to where you are right now, right? And did you ever think that you were going to play a superhero on the big screen?
I would have, I hoped and I dreamed and I prayed, but if I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't see any of like this or what one could consider to be like success, right, in the film and TV industry. I didn't see any of that happening until maybe I was in like my 40s, you know, mid 40s, something of that nature. I didn't expect it in the timeline. I knew I was going to get to a place, or at least I hoped, and I was confident that I would get to a place where I'd be able to be proud of the work, you know, I'd be doing and, you know, make some sort of name for myself. I just didn't expect the timeline happening the way that it did. And especially on the DC side of things, if you would have told me, hey, you're going to be in a film with Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and all of this, you would have, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. I'd have been like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll do that one day. But it would not have maybe been as filled with as much confidence. You know, it had felt like a pipe dream. Like
Well,
Yeah,
here we are.
it's funny you say that, Ray, because it's kind of like me with the photography. I sat there, I dreamed about, yeah, I would love to shoot these people. And here I am, I get a call, hey, we want you to shoot this show. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have the cast of Justice League there. What? Like, are you like, huh? Is this really, like, I'm pinching myself. Is this really happening?
Yeah.
You know, and then the Wizard World Philly, where I shadowed you. Thank you, you know, for that. I'm sorry my video didn't come out that good, but you know, shadowing you and seeing you. And then, you know, there's that one instance I got it on the video when you walked off the stage and your mom was there and you gave your mom a big hug. And I just was like, keep filming, because I know those moments. I saw how proud she was when you walked off that stage, you know, everybody cheering you on. And then she gave you a big hug and a kiss. I believe your brother was there on the side as well.
Everybody was there, embarrassing me that day.
Yeah.
That's so important to have a support system, and now you have a huge support fan base system. So it's just like your blessings keep on coming, because I always said good things happen to good people, and you're one of them. You're
Well, I
one of the
appreciate
good people.
And what the crazy thing is, I feel like in my situation in particular, like I feel like my successes have humbled me a lot more than my failures ever could, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
Usually when I don't succeed at something, you know, you get a little bit harder. You go, well, I'll get it next time. I'll just power through. But acquiring like these little markers in my career that ultimately have led to the, you know, to coming to this point, you know, you end up seeing that it's not simply just you. It's not simply just the hard work you put in, that you need to be afforded these little things, these little favors, these graces from other people, and these opportunities to be able to do the thing that you want to do, right? And you realize it's a humbling thing where you're like, hey, look, it took at least 12 other things besides myself to make this one moment happen.
Right.
And that's reflection, you know, that's trying to piece together the trajectory of everything. And so, you know, it's something that I'm glad that I've found out pretty early on, because it actually takes a lot of the pressure off, you know. And so I'm humbled by the support, just period, because, you know, just like anything in life, anything you do can go a multiple number of ways, right? It's just, it still doesn't really feel like real or true. You know what I mean?
I know it's just been a week, and
Yeah.
and it's just so amazing the reactions of everybody, and how much. I mean, I think the creator of Cyborg, if I'm not mistaken, or I mean, they congratulated you.
Marv Wolfman, yeah. Shout out to Marv Wolfman.
This is huge. This is huge.
Yeah, I got to meet Marv Wolfman briefly at the theatrical opening for Justice League, and you know, for him to have created both Cyborg and what I didn't put together until later on, Blade.
Oh, look at that! Your
and
favorite.
I'm like, you have literally created, you know, one of my favorite heroes growing up, and also my favorite hero by way of me getting to know more about them in my adult life. Like, from one person, I was like, that's one of those things where you go, oh, this is something outside of me, right?
Right.
Did we just become best friends?
Exactly. Like, it's kismet, you know.
That's amazing, and you inspire cosplayers everywhere, right? And so I have a couple of fans that have some questions, and
Okay.
this is a cosplayer, Alisa, and she has a question for you. She's extremely talented, and she does SFX, which is painting herself. I don't know how the heck does she do this, but she transforms into any character she wants. So I'm going to share with you her question.
I'm Ray Fisher. I'm Alyssa Phoenix. I am a cosplayer / makeup artist. As you can see, I do body paint of different creatures and obviously comic book characters. And my main question to you, like, I am very honored to be asking you this question. I'm very honored to know, like, you were able to portray Cyborg and bring that character to life, and we are very thankful for that. My question is to you, what research did you do for your character?
Okay. Well, first off, I got to shout out the effects. That's crazy. Is it you said it's Alisa?
Alisa. Yeah, Alisa Phoenix.
Shout out. I hope you're watching this, Alisa. Shout out to you. That is wild and awesome. Keep doing what you do. The research that I did for Cyborg, a lot of it was reading everything Cyborg related from the very beginning, from the New Teen Titans all the way through the New 52 stuff. And so there's probably not a Cyborg comic that I haven't read. It's just a matter of whether or not I retain everything. But ultimately, the emotional life for the character, even though Cyborg was made a part of the Justice League in the New 52 run of the comics, the emotional life in the character is much more inspired by Marv Wolfman and George Perez's original interpretation of the character from the 1980s. And so, you know, it gives a nice balance, I think, and also ultimately lends itself to the greatest journey for the character to use that emotional life. And there's been some interesting Easter eggs out there, especially for folks, you know, looking at the mother box and Unknown Object 61982, right? That being the month and year that the secret origins of Cyborg was revealed, and you know, little bits like that. You know, anywho. But
that is so cool.
I remember reading that for the first time and was like, I read that comic. I know what this means. All right.
And also the animated movies. I mean, I keep saying it. Like Jay Oliva brought so many little, you know, little influences that I see throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
With the animated movies, and it's so cool.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that combo between Zack and Jay, like, or the combos they may have had, like just talking about what things look like visually, and you know, things would be going. Like, I would have paid money for that.
I mean, absolutely incredible. I have another fan question, and this one is from. Give me 1 second. Mr. New York CTO. He is a great cosplayer as well as Cyborg, so he has a question.
Hey, Ray Fisher. I'm David. And yes, I'm the droid you're looking for. Anyway, I watched the Snyder Cut. It was amazing. Amazing movie. And you as Cyborg was phenomenal. I have a question for you, though. What was the most challenging part of playing Cyborg?
Real quick, Ray, before you answer that, that's the guy, the cosplayer that you shared the image of.
The one that you the one that you took the photo of?
Yes.
Look at that.
Yeah. That's one of the best Cyborg cosplays I've seen. I mean, the thing is, with a character like that and the way the costume is designed, you don't see a lot of cosplay like that, period. Because I think folks, from what I could tell, it's like it's very intricate, the design. Right. You know, you want to be able to do it justice, but that was phenomenal. Mr. New York City TO, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you do. For me, the most difficult aspect of the character, I think part of it is like the actual lack of costume, I think was a little bit hard for me because I've never done anything green screen, period. No digital work, period. And like having to adjust to what that is and really just use all my imaginative resources into believing and thinking and trying to physically embody the character, especially because I'm not, you know, 2 tons or however heavy, you know, Cyborg is, right? So the physicality and the costumes were some of the biggest challenges. But once you sort of nail that and, you know, you realize like you're in really great hands with the folks who are going to be doing the post-production side of things. And so ultimately, you know, something's not right. They can literally just paint my arm out and have it do something different, you know?
Right.
So there's a little bit of a safety net when it comes to that too. I think the emotional side of the character and the emotional side of the character was something that we had talked about so much before we even got onto set, that was a little bit I wouldn't say easier, but it was something that was not as difficult as, you know, just making sure that I knew where I was at in the physical space. So.
Yeah, when we see you reaching out for your father and that tear, it's just, I mean, you did so many of the most emotional parts of the whole movie. Also, I'm not broken, I'm not alone. It was literally right after you said you dropped the F-bomb and you're like, F the world, I'm done. And then when you realize all these people, how much they will give their life for each other, you just left and you went to get the mother box and you're like, I'm part of the team. I'm not broken. I'm not alone. And that was such a huge flip, but it was done so well.
Yeah,
there's
a thing they did there with the parallels where he's reaching with his left arm during the car accident.
Yeah.
But then for the father, he's reaching with the opposite hand. So it's like those parallels that they drew. And then also with the I'm not broken, I'm not alone. Remember, what the mother box can do is basically bring things back. So he was presented with an opportunity right there to have his life back, which is something that at the very beginning of the movie, he wished he had while watching the kids playing football outside. But then he realized, I have this team. They are my family now. So I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to go back to this point right here and then go forward from there.
And then you have Silas's monologue where he says, you know, it can only, the past, you can't fix the past.
Right.
Right. We just have to keep moving forward. And, you know, one of the things that always like kind of breaks me up a little bit is this idea that, you know, Cyborg crushes that tape recorder and leaves it on the counter. One of the last interactions that we see is Silas coming into that apartment, seeing that crushed tape recorder. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, Silas probably dies thinking his son never listened to his message.
Right.
And Cyborg would have never been able to repair that message or listen to it had, you know, the power of this sort of like techno healing, ended up coming into play. And that's something that, you know, Zach and Chris and folks were just like, we want to expand what this character can do, because we haven't even scratched the surface in the comics of what he's capable of, you know. So it's you know, there are a lot of like missed connections within this piece that I think ultimately end up like fueling, I think, what is a very human experience, right? Being able to wanting to say everything that you want to say to a person that is no longer here, you know, wanting to mend things, but not knowing exactly how, and, you know, the awkward nature with which those things come about, you know. There is something I think that's like beautiful and sad about dealing with a family that has some of the world's most intelligent people, right? Who can communicate all these ideas about science, math, all of that, probably pretty quickly. You know, some of the most intricate ideas, but they have trouble communicating what they feel to one another, right? And connecting in that way. There's a lot to process. There's a lot to dig into, and I think that's probably why it resonates with people, and maybe even resonates with them in ways that they're not exactly sure why. They're just like, I feel that, but I haven't been able to unpack that for myself as to why this is affecting me the way it does, you know. So I think that's what this art is about, and this is thankfully the kind of story that Zach and Chris and the rest of the crew were trying to tell. So yeah. Anywho,
we're so blessed to have achieved this. I mean, I think this came at a time where it was very important for people to get these messages that this movie brings out. And it's so many positive messages, so much inspiration, you know. To me, you became literally my favorite. I always been like Wonder Woman, but I thought to myself, maybe I should cosplay Cyborg. I'm not going to lie.
Hey,
I'm not going to lie. And I might do it.
I would love to see it. Please don't be a stranger and let me know when that happens.
Yes, I definitely want to so bad. You and Flash became my favorite in the whole movie.
Well, thank you. I mean,
it was so cool.
The beautiful thing is like, or I guess one of the tough things is just knowing how much depth and how much depth was sort of left behind between the previous version and this version. And so, you know, for me, it was never a matter of the world not seeing it. It would have been, you know, how they would see it and when they would see it, right? There was a comic convention that I said, you know, it's not a matter of whether or not the Snyder Cut exists. It's a matter of whether or not we ever get a chance to see it, and that was clearly up to folks in charge over at the studio. So I'm glad we got it. I'm glad the fans pushed, and you know, this is as much as I appreciate the compliments. Like, this is a win for all. Like, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the, you know, the collective that made this happen, and the other folks whose work was not represented, who is, you know, a lot of other people of color, Karen Bryson, Joe Morton's full arc with the characters there, Kiersey Clemens, and you know, the rest of the crew. It's
absolutely, they all did great, especially, you know, when the principal, you know, shortchanger, and she's like Dr. Bryson.
We need that.
Yeah.
We need that.
We need it, and it's relevant. It's, I think, a lot of the message people are more ready to receive now than maybe they even would have been in 2017. You know, we're in a much different place socially. We're in a much different place politically. We're in a much different place emotionally, financially, right? Everything. I think this hits on just about every issue that I see in my day to day and witnessing the folks that I interact with. You know, so there's something for everybody.
I was about to say that. I was about to say, even though with everything that happened, I think this was the perfect time for it to come out with everything, as you mentioned, political stuff, financial stuff. Like, this was like the perfect time for it to happen, because when you go to social media, it's overwhelmingly loved. Where prior Zack's films, people seem to just love hating on it. This time they really couldn't, because it's such a beautiful film. Yeah. And, you know, while yes, we would have loved to have seen it back in 2017, I think it just has a far greater impact right now overall.
Yeah. And that's why I say, listen, you know, I count this as one of the greatest successes. It's probably the greatest success of my career, like, period. But the success of this is humbling me much more than this thing coming out previous to it not being its full realized vision, right? You realize that there are so many other factors that come into play. And one of those factors is where we are socially to be able to receive the information that's being presented, right? So I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. And that only serves to validate this idea, like, you know, that this is a sort of community thing. Film is a community thing. How it's created and how it's perceived, you know, you need people to engage, right? So,
it's a fandom, and you know, we all came together, and this is historical moment, like I said before. But now we want to see more of Cyborg. Obviously, we love the character. We see you in the nightmare scene. We know there's more. Restore the Snyderverse, and heck yeah, restore the Snyderverse. And so, you know, any other plans you have besides, you know, being Cyborg? Any other opportunities that have come up that?
So I'm currently working on a show for ABC right now called Women of the Movement, and it focuses on influential Black women in the civil rights movement. Each season is going to focus on a different influential figure. And the first season is about Mamie Till Mobley, who's the mother of Emmett Till, who was murdered in Mississippi, which ultimately ended up by many accounts, launching the civil rights movement, right? It's going to be really powerful. It's going to be hard to watch, and it's going to be impactful. It's going to be meaningful. It's going to be a lot of things, but most importantly, it's going to be told by folks who should be telling this story, right? We've got a Black female showrunner and all Black female directors. You know, I've never worked on a series or any piece of, I guess, visual media that has been as sort of true to who should be telling that kind of story. So it's a lot of firsts for me. This is definitely going to make some history. And, you know, obviously Zack Snyder's Justice League is making history for a different reason.
Yeah.
But I feel just the sense of, I mean, I don't know if pride is the right word. I just feel fulfillment.
Responsibility. And,
fulfillment,
you know,
would be a good word for this. And there's a responsibility that comes with it.
Correct.
Especially on the screen now, because people are able to analyze it and see it in a different way. And so
I love how you take your success and bring it into another project that is so important. And, you know, that's Admirable. There we go. I got the word right. And then I know you have a lot going on this week. Thank you so much for your time. One more fan question
No, please.
from
Please.
Ugo. And here we
Hi,
go.
Ray. First of all, just want to thank you for an emotional, heartfelt performance of Cyborg in Justice League. My name is Ugo, or Ugo in Cosplay. I'm a cosplayer from the UK, cosplay Cyborg. It was built by the Aquaman guy you see here, King Tide Cosplay. I just wanted to ask, if you didn't get a chance to play Cyborg again, because I would love to see you as Cyborg, would you consider going to Marvel?
Would I consider going to Marvel if the story were right? I'm not I don't have like a huge knowledge of all the heroes, like in the untapped stories that have been told already. But I think if it was something that was impactful or something that had something meaningful, I'm not opposed to that. For me, it's not like an East Coast, West Coast, Marvel, DC kind of thing.
Right.
It's not like that. For me,
Right.
it would be more like, well, what kind of story are we telling, and like who's telling that story? So
Right. That's very important. Who's telling that story? And also, which Marvel character is your favorite?
Favorite of all, I mean, it would have to be Blade, just because of my association with that.
We know.
But insofar as like who I'd be willing to play, like it just rotates. It's always like bouncing from thing to thing, right? My buddy was like, "Hey, you'd be good as like Reed Richards, right?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe a little too young for that right now, but maybe." Yeah, for me, it's mostly about the story, because you can take a character that you normally wouldn't look at twice, right, and evolve and change the perception of that character based on the kind of story that you're telling. I know most folks, their association with Cyborg prior to this was Teen Titans, the TV show, the cartoon show.
Yes.
And so now that people are able to see the character in a different light, I'm assuming, knocking on wood, in fact, that the character will become as popular as like your Batmans, your Supermans. People will want to get to know more about them and be able to tell you offhand that Cyborg's parents' name are Silas and Eleanor, the same way they'd be able to rattle off Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent. That is the aim, is to raise awareness, so that way so you can have these different iterations that can like shift the character and help them grow and evolve. So, which is kind of like Cyborg, actually.
Yeah, I love that about your acting. You have a responsibility, and you're just not going for any role. It has to be a connection to you.
Yeah, well,
as a person,
this job is too hard, and you don't get to do it often enough for you not to. For me, at least, for me not to do things that I'm passionate about.
Right.
You never know when it's a popular thing to say, is like, you never know when your next job is your last job, because like this business ebbs and it flows. And just because you do a movie doesn't mean that you're a multimillionaire or, whatever people think about it, right? For some folks, you could do a movie, not do another one for 7 years, and it balance out to be what you would have made working, a regular day job, depending on what the situation is. So, I think there's some crazy perceptions about that. My only goal, my only mission, being a part of this, is because I know what it's like to grind. I know what it's like to struggle. And I know that I've got friends who are still in the grind, right, and still trying to make it happen. I know that if it ebbs, it ebbs, and I'm willing to get back on the grind and, do whatever I got to do to get to the next thing. But ultimately, I want to be able to maintain the integrity of my choice, right, about what it is that I'm able to do. So if nothing else, I feel blessed because, we've got this and True Detective and, the project that we're working on now. And while you may not see me often, just know that I'm fulfilled by the things you have seen me in.
Oh, thank you, Ray. We love you so much. We wish you the best success, that you get to work in other projects that you set your mind on. And just know that you have a full support. Cosplay community is right there with you. We want to see more Cyborg. We want to see more of you. It's been a week, and I know you made so many changes to so many people and such an impact in the community. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being part of the show and for taking your time to join my channel, my brand new baby.
Well, that's congratulations. I'm glad I could be
Thank you.
One of the first, I guess. Yeah.
I don't have a goodbye
slogan,
so I just wave, smile and wave, and then
smile and wave. Let's all do it simultaneously.
Bye.